Toothless Trickling Torpedo recently opened at the DreamWorks Water Park at the American Dream Mall in East Rutherford, New Jersey, and it may just be the world's best water coaster. For those unfamiliar with water coasters, this is a genre of water slide featuring uphill segments akin to a traditional roller coaster. These uphill sections can be powered by water jets, conveyor belts, or magnets. Toothless Trickling Torpedo uses the latter, which allows it to quickly and smoothly be propelled uphill. Built by Proslide, Toothless Trickling Torpedo officially opened in October 2020 when the DreamWorks Water Park officially opened after the COVID-19 shutdown. And when this water slide opened, it took 2 world records for the longest and tallest hydromagnetic water coaster. The DreamWorks Water Park has not released the official stats for Toothless Trickling Torpedo, but we know it has to be longer than Splash and Safari's Mammoth, the prior record holder for the longest hydromagnetic water coaster. Mammoth is 1,763 feet, or 537 meters in length. The exact height is a bit harder to discern. The world's tallest water coaster is currently massive at Schlierbach in Galveston. That slide stands 81 feet tall, or 24.7 meters tall. However, Massive's uphill sections are powered by water jets, not magnets. The tallest posted height for a hydromagnetic water coaster I could find was also Mammoth at 69 feet or 21 meters. But there could be a taller one. But since Toothless is advertised as the world's tallest hydromagnetic water coaster, not just the tallest water coaster, I suspect its height is roughly 75 to 80 feet tall or 23 to 24 meters tall. But if anyone knows for sure, I'd love to know. As the name would suggest, Toothless Trickling Torpedo is themed to the How to Train Your Dragon film franchise. And outside of one dragon statue hung alongside the course, there really isn't any theming. And that's probably for the better. You really don't get a chance to appreciate the visuals around you during the slide because the walls rise up so high and you're whizzing along the layout so quickly. Now, before delving into the ride, there are a few operational notes I want to mention. First, this slide has the same rafts as Splash and Safari's Wildebeest or Hershey Park's Breaker's Edge. This means you need to ride in groups of 2 to 4 people. In normal times, the DreamWorks Water Park intends to pair single riders with other parties. But until the pandemic subsides, the park will not group multiple parties. The park will allow different parties to pair themselves up, but they will not take the initiative to do so for liability purposes. Each raft must have at least 150 pounds, but no more than 700 pounds. Second, the water slide had quite a bit of downtime on the day I visited. The ride kept triggering faults, and the test rafts would get stuck along the course. For this reason, I recommend riding Toothless as soon as you arrive at the park. That's especially true because of the third reason, the ride's popularity. I visited on a day when the water park was completely dead, but this was the only ride in the entire park that was constantly cycling guests, as it easily seemed to be the favorite among park goers. And for good reason. Therefore, you should ride this early before it generates a queue line if you're going on a busier day. Fourth, it does matter where you sit. You might not think this when you see how short the rafts are, but the airtime is quite different depending upon where you sit. Yes, you heard me right. This ride has airtime. It's just floater airtime, but that's pretty terrifying when you have absolutely no restraint on a water slide. That's why you're specifically instructed to hold on by operators. If you're up front, you get small, rapid pops of airtime atop many of the hills. If you're in the back, you get less instances of airtime, but the airtime is more sustained when it does happen on the steeper drops. I preferred the sustained airtime at the back because it felt more terrifying on a water slide, but both are good in their own way. Like the newer Proslide water coasters, Toothless Trickling Torpedo begins with a long conveyor belt lift. And this is very much appreciated because it gives your legs a break. Keep in mind, this is the same park with a 142-foot tall body slide. Once atop the lift, the fun begins. Most water coasters have a compact layout contained within itself. Toothless is a different ride in that the layout circles the entire perimeter of the water park. This results in less turns and more drops, which I was completely on board with. This slide starts with a slow turn and then a shallow drop. This one doesn't offer any airtime, but the rapid ascent up the second hill does give a tiny pop of airtime up front. The second drop doesn't really offer any airtime either for those in the back. That's followed by another rapid ascent up the third hill, which gives front row riders yet another quick pop of airtime entering a tunnel. You then curve to the right and descend down a far steeper drop than the initial two. This results in a decent pop of airtime for those in the back. You then rise up another hill and shoot into yet another tunnel, but not before riders up front get yet another small pop of airtime. And the fourth drop is very similar to the prior one. It's pretty steep and it gives back row riders a decent pop of airtime. Up next is the dullest hill in the ride. At this point, you've reached almost the ride's maximum height and the ride loses a lot of steam cresting this hill, so there's no airtime for anyone on the fifth hill. The launch up the sixth hill thankfully gives you your speed back, so front row riders get a tiny pop of airtime cresting it. Back row riders are out of luck since the drop on the other side is another rather shallow one. You then rise up into yet another tunnel, unfortunately not giving a pop of airtime for front row riders this time. You then turn to the right ever so slightly, and then you finish similarly to Kennywood's Thunderbolt. You still have the two largest drops ahead of you. The second to last drop is the ride's largest by far, and this drop packs a mighty punch in back. You get a really good pop of airtime, and the drop seemingly lasts forever. It's far longer than you'd expect. You then rise up yet another sizable hill, giving front row riders probably their last pop of airtime on the ride. You then enter this striped enclosed tunnel. This section is arguably the tamest part of the ride, but it's the lull before the storm. The final drop is the most intense on the entire ride. It's extremely steep, and you enter it with some good speed. This results in some wild and sustained floater airtime for back row riders. It felt like the shed drop on Wildebeest, but on steroids. It may be the best airtime moment on any water coaster out there. You then rise up the final hill, getting no airtime unfortunately, and then splash to a stop before returning to the station. So what would I rate Toothless's Trickling Torpedo? I would give this water slide a perfect 10 out of 10. The sheer length of this slide is the number one thing earning it that score. This water slide is an endless series of hills. While not all of the hills hit, a majority of them do. The airtime on the final two drops in the back is among the best of any water slide out there, and the quantity of airtime in the front row even surpasses Wildebeest. Plus, the magnetic powered launches uphill maintain the ride's speed start to finish, with the exception of that one lull atop the fifth hill, so the water slide has very few dead spots. But how does it compare to the other water coasters out there? My previous two favorite water coasters were the two at Holiday World in Mammoth and Wildebeest. Those two were neck and neck. Toothless feels very similar to Wildebeest in terms of length, drops, and airtime. Toothless just has less turns or filler in between those drops. However, I give Toothless the edge over the two water coasters at Holiday World for reasons that some may find silly. Comfort. The water coasters at Holiday World are unbelievably frigid even on a warm summer day. Meanwhile, Toothless was perfectly comfortable thanks to the DreamWorks Water Park's indoor environment. The launches on Toothless also didn't seem to fling water in my eyes like the uphill segments on Wildebeest or Mammoth. Again, all three of these slides are great, but it's these little things that give Toothless the ever so slight edge as my favorite water coaster. So those are my thoughts on Toothless's Trickling Torpedo. What are your thoughts on this new water slide? Have you ridden it? I would love to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this review, I'd appreciate if you gave this video a like and consider subscribing, because there'll be a lot more amusement park and roller coaster videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.